Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome. So we're gonna wait just a couple minutes just to let some late people kind of trickle in here. But just to introduce you guys real quick while you read the slide, my name is Marcy Gruby, and I'm a member of the Canine Education Online team. And we have Lisa Wright, who you'll meet in a couple minutes, and she's the founder of Canine Education Online and Canine Education Australia. And then you get to meet Anastasia Egorova. I'm so excited.
Yay.
And she's our course instructor. So we're just going to wait a few minutes, please settle in, get something nice cozy to drink or something cool, refreshing to drink, and we'll start in a couple minutes. I'm excited to see everyone today.
It is. I can see everybody joining.
Oh, good.
I can't. Where do you see that? I'm lost in Zoom. That's my first time. To let you know. Where do you look for it?
I have a thing. It says participants. Although Marcy will probably be at it. Well, we're up to 18 people in here now.
Cool.
So
Welcome,
if you maybe look at the bottom of the screen. Yeah.
Participants. 16 it says. Okay, so that's 16 and 3 of us. That's cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Just a couple
Now
minutes.
I found it.
I know. It's funny with, everyone learning Zoom and new technology.
Yeah, we're teaching in 3 different time zones.
I know.
America, Australia, and Russian. It's crazy.
It is funny. It is funny.
Yeah, 3 continents, right? It's amazing.
Yeah, 3 continents teaching.
The only thing I would just one of the things I have noticed with some of the webinar chats we've got, anybody coming in here now, if you go to the Zoom webinar chat, it should be to the right. It's like a little pop-out box. You can introduce yourself there, but you do need to check on that blue button, and it needs to say all panelists and attendees.
So that way we all see it. And I'll be answering if you have more of a functional question. You can't get something to work in Zoom, go ahead and pop it in chat if Lisa and Anastasia are chit-chatting, and I'll try to address it. But so I'm going to go ahead and start. We have 2 minutes in. We don't want to waste your time. We want to make sure we get you guys all the info you need. And I am so excited you're here. So again, my name is Marcy Gruby. I'm a member of the Canine Education Online team. I'm in San Diego, California. Like I said, we're across 3 continents, which is kind of cool. I'm so glad you're here to join us for Puppy Foundations for Agility. Again, we have Lisa Wright, founder and owner of Canine Education Online and Canine Education Australia. And of course, our course instructor who we're so excited to connect with, and that's Anastasia Egorova. So I'm going to read Anastasia some information about her. If you don't know who she is, oh my gosh, so much stuff you've done in such a short time, Anastasia. I'm so impressed.
And you're actually probably the first English-speaking person that ever pronounced my surname right. So that's seriously cool, because nobody ever gets it right.
Thank you. So I'm going to read Anastasia's long form bio, and then we'll get to Lisa, and then we'll get to some poll questions. So Anastasia Egorova started agility as a junior handler back in 2004 with a German Spitz, which I love, so cute, and a mother's Yorkshire Terrier. She soon started competing with her trainer's dogs. She was also Russia Junior Champion in team and individual, both FCI and IFCS. Anastasia got her first Border Collie in 2008 and did agility and obedience. Her next dog, Chase, was multiple times regional and national champion for FCI and IFCS, Russian national team at WAC. Lots of acronyms here. IFCS 2016 and
agility people know them, yes.
I know.
Yeah.
AWC FCI national team member and I knew I was going to mess one up. Zaragoza.
Zaragoza, yeah, it's in Spain.
Where they won gold in team agility large course and also won team large overall. Chase is also team IFCS world champion in 2018. In addition, he has 4 individual medals from IFCS Worlds during 2016 and 2017. Anastasia made EO 2018 team finals, and in 2019, she got multiple podiums at WAO with 2 dogs, including a bronze medal in games with her younger dog and silver in pentathlon with Chase. Anastasia has been training, giving seminars, and judging since 2011. She currently competes with 3 border collies and a German Spitz. Anastasia is a longtime student of Susan Garrett, who she considers the person who influenced her the most as a trainer, competitor, and an amazing person too. In her training, she tries to combine in teaching dogs independent obstacle skills, distant work, send and leave, but also trust the dog to do their job while she's doing hers. She does not like rushing puppies into early career training and strongly believes in foundations and body work as a proper start to a long-lasting and successful career. So that is Anastasia, who you get to talk to in a few minutes. And our next lovely host is Lisa. And Lisa, again, is the founder of Canine Education Online and Canine Education Australia. And I love the photo of you and your dog. Is that Tibby, the black dog?
Yeah, Tibby dog.
It's so cute. Lisa's
He is
first dog
adorable.
was, yes. Her first dog was Tibby, a mixed breed dog who followed her home from the local playground in 1974. Her father insisted she go to the local club after she chewed his favorite tree in the garden. And there began a lifelong love of working with dogs began. In 2008, while living in Brisbane and volunteering for the local rescue, Lisa adopted Kong, a rough collie who was so ball obsessed he couldn't interact with people unless he was handing you the ball. This led to some searching on how to transfer the value of the ball to something more engaging with people, and that turned out to be agility. In 2011, Lisa and her husband Mark were in a major car accident that ended agility for Kong. Sadly, he passed away suddenly in 2013. And it was then that Lisa decided to get her first Sheltie Clooney, who's also very adorable, I might have to say. She is now doing foundation training with her Coolie Kelpie, Tom. So that's Lisa, and it's so nice to meet you ladies. And before I turn it over to you guys, there are going to be a couple of polls that will pop up, and these are kind of just fun things. And also we want to know like how old your dog or your puppy is, just so we can kind of gauge at what point you are in your training. And then also we're going to have kind of like the largest challenges that you might have right now in your foundations training for your dog. So with that, I'm going to be quiet because you didn't come here for me, and I'm going to turn it over to Lisa and Anastasia.
Oh, thank you so much, Marcy. And look, I have to thank Marcy because what she hasn't told you is that it's actually, what is it now, 3 a.m. in the morning there? 3 in the morning.
Crazy.
Because Marcy, she's a good woman. She's actually in San Diego, and I had the absolute joy of meeting her in 2015. It's 5 years ago, Marcy.
I know.
At a conference.
Yes.
Yeah, so Marcy used to look after all the digital communications for a very large shelter over there, and that's how we met. So I'm just really grateful that she's on board. Great, Tanya Bailey, I can see that you're volume. Yeah, thank you. So Anastasia, I think most people know who you are, and I think one of the exciting things about our time with you last year is that you did have a strong focus on foundations, but also where that has led you. And I guess that does come out of going back to probably you work like with Susan as well.
It comes up from a lot of different areas actually, because once I've started teaching, not only in Russia, but also overseas, there's one common thing, like not problem, but like a very common issue that people tend to have, because usually there are like two extremes. So some people start puppies too early and they just like to do the sexy stuff. So they start obstacles, they start jumping early, they start context training, like when puppies are like 5-6 months old, crazy things. Or there's another extreme that overseas I see more than I do in Russia. In Russia, I mostly see people starting too early because they don't really know what else to do except obstacles work, because they just, you know, nobody ever told them to, or they never really wanted to do anything that's not fun. Because I mean, we do agility as a game because we think it's fun, like we invented it, and that's not that like dogs play with us because we asked them to. but we never really
Mm.
think about it the way that we choose their the amount of pressure we put on them, and body wise, and on their brains as well. And overseas, I see another problem that people start not too late, but they don't really know what to do with the puppies when they're young, because they don't want to abuse them, like exercise wise. They don't want to let them jump too early. I mean, it's great, but the other problem is when you get a puppy that's like 17, 18 months, and then you all of a sudden start obstacles work, and the puppy never did anything with it before, but they're mostly grown up by that time, and they're all nearly full speed because their structure is all grown up, and they like body wise and running wise, they love it, and they go super fast. And if they never did anything around obstacles and no foundations work before that, it's kind of not as dangerous starting young puppies, but it's also not very good on them, because you start doing things when they're full speed and they're crazy about it and they love it, and then they get themselves injured easier because they just do everything like at full speed, full grasp, all excited. And it's really hard to explain to a youngster who is like a year and a half old, who loves the game, to slow down and figure things out before you actually start throwing yourselves around equipment. And that's especially true for larger dogs that jump like 60, for example.
Yeah. That's an awesome perspective to bring to it. And I don't think it's one that would be very, there'd be a huge amount of consideration of in Australia either. So I think that's something in particular that, you know, is pretty enlightening to me. And especially given that I'm starting to work a dog that's actually now 2, who,
well, Tom is special. That's a different thing. I have a special one too. I have a very special.
They look alike.
They do. They actually do. I actually thought he was a Kelpie, not a Coolie, though.
His mum, he's very Kelpie looking. But he's a solid, and I think most people expect them to be merled. You know, one of the things that, and I think Jenny Marshall out there asked this question earlier on as well. I think the biggest challenge that people are facing here is knowing when to progress skills as well, like being able. So, you know, time at the moment.
Well, I think there's a very good saying about it. I think Bob Bailey said that expect more and get more. So I don't believe in babysitting even small puppies, because if something that you reward with, for example, anything you use for your reinforcement, your toy or your food gets to the dog can get it easily. So it's super simple, super easy, and the dog can do like 3 things and then get it. It stops being exciting for both of you. And as soon as the puppy, especially if it's a very happy, very engaged puppy, gets bored, they start being engaged with other things around you, not just you, but butterflies, sounds, other dogs, people. And the puppy that is not challenged is more likely to leave you than the puppy that is excited to get around things and figure things out to get what he wants. If you just, you know, bribe the puppy with cookies for doing pretty much nothing but, you know, a lured sit, is it exciting? Not really. I mean, it's exciting for probably first 3 times when he gets the cookie and he's happy about it. But generally, there are lots of other stuff around that's way more exciting than that, and he'll probably choose that in front of you. So I do keep.
And again, it's skills. Like the biggest. Like the biggest distractions are the biggest reinforcers as well. So being able to, you know, play
with puppies. What I start with, and actually, I think we say that in the first video, that one of the things that's homework that you will need to do for the course is to do 2 lists. One of them is a list of reinforcers. So basically anything your dog loves, a list of toys, a list of cookies that you use, any food that you use, a list of social reinforcing things like petting the dog, talking to the dog, probably petting the dog in one very particular place, because one of my dogs especially love petting on their butt and they're crazy about it. And when you want to get them engaged and excited, that's what you start with. And it's fun and they love it. And it gets both of you chilled, especially. And I do that ringside all the time because I want him happy and with me. Although he's almost 9 now, he's twice world champion. And, you know, that's still our routine because I know he loves it. And I use it as a tool. And all your reinforcement is tools that you use in your training with a baby and when they're all grown up and doing, you know, proper agility work in the ring as well. And another thing there is also reinforcing things that we don't usually think about as reinforcers is Basically anything your dog loves to do. So going out for a walk, for example, when the dog is all crazy and excited at the doorstep, letting the dog out is reinforcement. When the dog is allowed to go swimming, if they love swimming, that's reinforcement. When you take the leash off and let them run with older dogs, for example, with puppies, that's another reinforcement. So these are all things to consider, because sometimes we get behaviors that we don't understand where they're coming from, or we don't get behaviors and we don't understand. I mean, I've rewarded the dog 50 times for being good and he still leaves for other dogs. Well, there is reinforcement coming from there that's way more exciting than your cookie in the pocket. So this is what's shaping the behavior. To understand those things, you need to really know what is that your dog loves, not just cookies and toys. So another list that you'll need to do is a list of distractions, which is pretty much basically the same thing, because if your dog is getting distracted, that probably means that the dog wants something more than you. So that the dog wants is more reinforcing than a cookie in your pocket or your toy. So a list of, I don't know, chasing squirrels, running after bats. I think that's a crazy, stupid word. Really, that's what's to. I have a student with a younger puppy now. Well, he's not a puppy really, but he's like a year and 6 months, and he's insane about buses and bicycles and especially trains. And that is very dangerous. Okay. But those are things that drive him nuts. And we had to literally work like start line stays at a train station in a head halter. And the reinforcement he got, he was allowed to literally do like 3 steps alongside like the platform and to do that stocky thing. And that made it solid bomb proof, because he knows he needs to do something we ask him to do. And then he's allowed to do his stocky thing. And first thing, it's stop the self-release to there, because he knows it's a tool now, and he knows he will be allowed to get there, because if he goes there on his own, he's fixed on a head halter, so he can't really do that. But as soon as you do something I ask you to do, you get what you want. But for that to work, you need to really know what is that your dog wants. And that's what a lot of people with puppies struggle, because like the obvious things that come to our mind are cookies, toys, and good boy. But that's not all that's out there. And a lot of things that get the dog really excited are not your cookie or toy or you saying good boy. So you need to know what's out there that the dog loves.
It's interesting because Karen Shields, I've met her puppy. She's got the coolest coolie puppy. And I don't know if we can't post photos up here, can we, Karen? But also I can see Minerva. Minerva's in the US. And
I know Minerva. Minerva's a long student of mine. They're fun.
Hey, Minerva, hi. So do you know this busy dog that she's talking about?
I do.
Okay. Yeah. So she's just saying, and I think as well, like Karen's saying, she's got a 9.5-month-old puppy, really high drive, and this puppy is high drive, hates to come in, would rather be sent to do something again. And so is that just a stalky working breed thing? It might be. I experience that from time to time with. Yeah. It's not a herding breed thing. It's a way, like all dogs are different and all dogs' personality is different. And with some of them, like I have I hope once in a lifetime challenge dog. I mean, I love him to bits, but I do really hope I never get another one of those, because I mean, he taught me a ton of things. Yes. Thank you, but no thank you, please. Like my older dog now, Chase, he's nearly 9.5 now, and he made me a world champion, and I love that dog to bits, and he's my once in a lifetime dog, and I'll never get another one of them, and I know I'll never have another so special relationship with a dog, because he came into my life at a very special stage, and he was born when my father died, and it was 9th day in Russia. Oh my God, Shelty! Hi, Shelty. Scout's just come in. She pushed the door open. I'm going to hand her off.
So Chase was born when I had literally just not even just recovered, but just literally middle of a funeral, because he was born in my house, and my first border collie, she gave birth when we had like a sort of like Russian religious ceremony when it's 9 days after somebody passed away. We have like a family gathering at home. And that was exactly the time when she came into labor. She decided, you need to, a change of mind, do something else, stop grieving, do something else. So he came in there, and then he was the firstborn of my own bitch, and he just decided he's staying. Like I never planned to keep a puppy from that litter. He
So you
just
got
decided
picked.
he's staying. Yeah. He was literally
Yeah.
like, once he
Yeah.
was like 20 days old and he could barely walk, he was going after me and pinched me on my ankles and like, Mama, I'm home, I'm staying. Everybody's for sale, I'm
Aw.
staying. So he just bit me and,
Yep.
went after me. And anytime people came just to socialize the puppies, he was just all over them and he was playing, he was happy, he was barking, he was tugging, anything. Anytime puppy buyers came, so people who were actually choosing a puppy from that litter, he's like, you know what? There was 5 for sale. I'm home. Bye-bye. And he just went and slept behind the fridge. Nobody ever saw him. And when the owner of the male came, she's like, you keeping that thing? He's antisocial. He doesn't like people. He doesn't play. I'm like, you close the door and he'll be himself again. He just thinks he's here. He's staying. He never engaged with anybody else except me. So he kind of stayed. So he just decided that what's happened. And then I lost his mom when he was 4.5 months old in a car accident on way back from Russian nationals.
I was going to ask you about this. Yeah.
Yeah. And at that point, like, if not him, I would have quit the whole thing because I felt so guilty and so overwhelmed with what happened. And he wasn't with me because when I had 2 border collies, my own girl and another of my trainer's dog that I competed with. And he was staying at my friend's house and I was devastated. And then I came back to pick him up and he was 4.5 months old border collie puppy who needed work. He needed engagement. He needed playing, fun, exercise. And I mean, I had no other option than to, keep doing something, even at times when I really didn't want to. So, and then when he was 2.5, that was 2013. Yeah, he was about 2.5. I went working to England with my friends, photographers, and I got in a car accident and I got 22 broken bones. Now I have a titanium installment in my femur and pretty much different length of my legs. So when I came back 9 months after that, first thing he peed himself when he saw me because I think he absolutely assumed like I left him. And when he actually saw me for the first time in his life, he peed himself from happiness. And when I came back from England, I could barely, like I could walk, but I was limping like a freaking duck. I couldn't run, I couldn't trot, I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't do stairs. And I had a 2.5-year-old border collie that was like coming into being his awesome self and coming into competing and coming into all of his full speed and full potential. And I couldn't run. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to find him a handler because there's no way I'm gonna do anything with that dog. And he's so amazing. Like, I mean, I obviously kept him, but I wanted somebody else to run him because we lived like across the field from a training center. And I talked with 3 people and,
So did you end up finding someone to run him?
No, I got
you
refused
ended
by 3
up
people.
having to handle him.
I ended up doing distance work because of that. Because like first training I came to, he was like, "What's going on, Mom?" Like he was not understanding what's happening because he knew how to do stuff. Yeah. But I'm just standing in the middle of the field and he's like, what's wrong with you? And then I just tried walking and I tripped over a sandbag on a tunnel and fell over. And my trainer assumed I died because I couldn't get up in like 5 minutes.
So I think that's the thing with this kind of handling that makes people so interested in it is that this ability that the Russians seem to have to handle at a distance. And I guess, I certainly didn't break the bones you did, but I am not as mobile as I was. And I often think too that our dogs with independence can handle courses really, really well if they just know what they're doing. But I think that foundations of getting them to the point where they know what they're doing is something that, it's great to see a dog that's actually competing at, 3 and 4, having that capability. But I think that's where my fascination now is. And, I think I was driving along with Nat Kirkwood one day. She was coming up here for a workshop and there was another workshop happening that we were hosting. It was Nick Garowdy, and I said, I'm amazed that Foundations isn't as busy as what it is. And she said, well, Foundation, and I think I actually said it's not the advanced. I thought the advanced would be busier. And she said, well, Foundations is where everything happens, and that's where her interest is. And I think we don't realize how significant Foundations is. And I think we also think too that dogs that past 6 months of age, well, foundations isn't as significant, but it is, right?
Well, the more you do foundations, the less struggle you have down the line. And the less foundations you have, the more you struggle on actual obstacles. And when you struggle on actual obstacles, not on a very simple puppy baby exercise with doing, I don't know, a nose target, a crate entry, and a wrap around the cone, when you struggle on your weave entries or on your bars on your backsides, you get frustrated because it's significant, because it's like real stuff. And you get upset, you get the dog upset because you just can't cope with it. And when it's a baby, simple, easy, fun exercise, first thing, it's way easier to explain to the dog the game rules when they're small and when you're doing something, well, it's not insignificant. It is very significant, but it's something that's not real equipment work. It's way easier on their body, first thing, because you're not doing 3,000 repetitions because you can't handle and you can't figure out, you know, the way to make it easier. And you're not asking the dog to do a full jump height or a full obstacle, like full weaves or something. It's way easier fixed. And if you establish a good working ethic and your dog knows game rules, which is basically, I tell you something to do and you go do something about it. So my words matter and my handling matter. And you build equal focus on equipment and on handler when the puppy is relatively small, not yet full speed because they're just not grown up enough. If you establish that when you're young, you solve yourself like 3,000 problems when they're older, no matter how fast they get when they're older. I have like an insanely fast younger bitch who's a chase daughter. You want to see her in the course. She's the Merle Bertelkor puppy. She's 3 years old now. And I never had a dog with that speed in my life. Like literally, I do struggle with her a lot, but that's not her fault. That's all mine, because I never had a dog that was so sharp, like on her turns and on her reactions. Because I used to have her grandmother, my first border collie that died in a car accident, and she was very much like her, but she also barked at me all the time because I was so late. And I was like 14 years old, and she was young and very, very intense, and she was very high drive, and we didn't really have a lot of border collies back then in the country. So not a lot of people could advise me on what to do with her. So there was a lot of frustration going on there, a lot of barking, a lot of bar knocking, and she was, do you do centimeters or inches in Australia?
We're centimeters, we're metric here, but your US friends are inches.
So she was, I think I pretty much figured inches out teaching in America, but I might be wrong. So she was 44.5 centimeters, which I think is just over 16 inches or just under 16 inches maybe. And she used to jump 65, which is 24 inches back then, because that was like 11 years ago. So the only thing that ever saved me, that she was so small and she had to jump so much that I had some time, you know, to keep up with her. And then Chase, he's a sweetheart. He literally reads the freaking numbers. I mean, that dog, anytime you can get your butt off that number plate, he'll get it for you. Like that dog made me world champion, and I'll never get another dog like that. But he never was like, I had struggles with him. He was afraid of heights, and he was a little bit not stocky, but he loves to look in my face, and he really listens for instructions. So if you're late, he will not spin, he'll just slow down and stare at you, which is a lot of time wasting. And then I had my special boy, Yo-Yo, the crazy smooth thing that looks like a coolie, and he's fast. He's way faster than Chase, but he's also quite big, and he's like wider on his turns, and I do have time to figure things out while running him. And my younger bitch now, she's a proper size, and she jumps, and now we jump 60, of course, which is 22, I think, inches. And she's so fast, and she's so sharp reacting. I cannot really, like, I can't keep up with her, and I'm still learning that. But if she didn't have proper foundations when she was a puppy, now that would be a complete disaster, because she's super fast, and she sometimes struggles to keep bars up because she's too much in a hurry to get places. And I can't get places because she's just too fast for me. So if she didn't have verbals when she was a puppy, like we would be literally like screaming at each other now, not being able to do like 3 jumps in a row.
So coming back to, look, I'm looking at the people that are in here tonight. The majority of dogs here are 2 to 4 years of age. We've got a couple of dogs that are like 4 to 8 years of age. We've got 5 babies that are under 6 months of age, and 4 6 to 12-month-old dogs. But yeah, by far and away, there's 2 to 4-year-old dogs. I guess if we're going to say these dogs have probably all started out doing some level of agility, is going back to this foundations course going to be something that will help them solve the rest going forward, like the issues that they've got now?
Foundations are never too late to readdress, really. And a lot of struggles that you have with a grown-up dog on a course, first thing, most of them are caused by a lack of understanding, lack of skill proofing, and lack of basically challenging the dog and challenging yourself. So if your dog like is 6 years old, for example, and has competed and, for example, always struggled with independence on backsides, that is solved by simple, easy cone wrap exercise that you can do with a puppy that's 4.5 months old, and with a dog that's 6 years old. It's equally effective for both of them, and it's actually fun and easy, and it can be done in your backyard, which is most of us are currently only training in.
Yeah, exactly, with all of us still staying at home for a while. And so I guess one of the things is that we're looking at it as a fresh take on our foundations. And I know that some of the things that Penny Mead, if Penny Mead's out there, she was even saying that there was things that were a different take on skills that she had previously learned as well. So someone in here tonight, Kim Hogan, I can't remember if Kim came up to the workshop when you and Stas were here, when Kathy brought you down.
What dog did she have? I remember dogs better than I do.
It would have been a golden retriever. Yeah, no, I always remember the dogs. A golden retriever it would have been, but she's asking about... I don't
think we had a golden retriever in Australia. I would have remembered. I love goldies.
So Nat's just saying that she's only seeing some of my comments. So one of the things that if you are in here, just have a look at that blue button. It should say all panelists and attendees. There's a few of you in here like Minerva, Kathy, it's just saying all panelists probably when you look at that button. So where you go to type, if you do a little drop down where it says to, and just change it to all panelists and attendees, and then everybody can see what you're saying. So Kathy was just saying that she's got a 10-week-old border collie, and
babies are cute, and babies are really cool to work with because you can really see their little brains work. And it's really cool when you like start with very simple things and you can progress. I mean, all that we do in the foundations course is basically me doing work with my puppies. And it's not like a program that you have to follow like step by step from this very point, from this very age, with this very amount of repetitions. It's basically guidelines. And I mean, even if you have done a fair amount of foundations and you have a relatively grown up dog, we covered like, I think we counted it like over 100 skills. And I mean, not all of them are like separate different skills, but most of them are basically, we start a thing like we start, for example, a verbal for your backside, or we start verbals for your directionals, or we start proofing your start line stays. And we do 5, 7, 10 exercises on each of them. And most of the people do some foundations and they start things, but I don't think a lot of people realize how much you need to progress that and how much you need to prove that and how much you need to push that, so that when you actually meet that skill on a course, your dog gets into competition ring and can do anything that's out there because it's a beach holiday for them. It's super easy because they've done so much overtraining and so much proofing and so much distraction work on that skill at home in an easier environment, that they know it literally by heart and they don't struggle with it, and they would listen to you whatever arousal level is and how difficult the environment is, because that skill is bomb proof because you've done so much around it, so you can use it in a competition. It's way easier than what you've done at home.
And so I think that leads me on to the next thing that I was going to say, is that I think a lot of people in here struggle in when to add those layers of distraction in. And I think like basically, I know me personally is progressing skills. And I think the other thing too is, and Annette's asking how much room for these exercises. Her backyard's not big.
Most of them are like super small space, because I mean, we don't really do, like, we do some obstacles work, but it's really basic. And the training hall that we used to have back then was super small as well. And most of what we did not do in an agility place. We did that either at my home or basically at a public park, which we only had space 4x4 meters. So like the only things that requires space there would probably be jump grids, but also the same thing. They're not obligatory. I mean, you can do jump grids, you can skip jump grids and readdress them later when you have space for that. And I mean, jump grids are always great. And I mean, Susan Sallow made a whole program of that. And I mean, we only cover like 3 or 5 really basic ones. And I mean, if you don't have enough space to address jump work for now, there's like 1,000 other things you need and can work in very small spaces. And like we do some public places work there too, but you don't really have to do that.
And people listening to Anastasia when she was up here, like when Agility Click brought her down to Sydney, I remember talking to her one night. How many dogs in your apartment did you have in Moscow? Was it 5?
It's not an apartment. It's a freaking teeny weeny little studio that I rent because I'm currently building a house. But because of it was supposed to be ready by last winter. Then it didn't happen, as houses don't happen. So then it was supposed to be ready by this summer, but of course it didn't happen because 3 of my working trips were canceled. So there's no way I'm going to finish it for summer. I'm hoping I can get back to overseas working by winter-ish, maybe. So hopefully we'll get there by New Year. But I mean, for last 3.5, I think, nearly 4 years, I'm renting a studio that literally has 1 room and a teeny weeny little kitchen and a teeny weeny little bathroom. And I still have like a 1.5 meter by 1.5 meter fitness working place in there. I have like little puzzle mats that I do, like I have 4 little puzzle mats and some pitfalls equipment. But all the other work I do like in a backyard. And I live in the middle of the city, so my nearest forest to go to walk my dogs is 40 minutes drive. And my nearest training place is traffic jams, 1.5 hours one way, probably up to 2.5 hours if you're bad. And we only go there 2 to 3 times a week.
So there's a couple of people saying, how small a yard is too small. So, and I think, if you can do this in a studio apartment in the middle of Moscow, you can pretty much find space anywhere, I think.
And too small a yard is where you cannot fit your dog and yourself in. That would be too small.
So Karen, who's got this 9.5-month-old super speedster, is looking for calming exercises in this. I think there's some good things in there, working with distractions as well, Karen. That's one of the things I noticed when I was going through the videos and doing the notes that you've sent over, looking at changing environments up to help dogs be able to, manage that. But I think getting a dog to calm down is an interesting question, I think.
Well, it's not about getting the dog to calm down, really. I don't believe in calming dogs down or making their arousal levels lower. I do believe in explaining to the dog, no matter how high you are, the rules are still the same. So if you're over the top, it's none of my business. It's your job. You know your job. You know your rules. You go do something about it. So that is established by doing a lot of distractions work, a lot of, I call that overtraining, which basically means that you do things that you're never going to meet in the ring. Like if you do a start line stay, you put 30 dogs around and you do recalls on them while the puppy is keeping the start line stay. And we actually do that in the course. I think that's around video 15, maybe. And putting things like pig ears in front of your dog, doing a nose target, for example. And all of those things established to the dog, no matter what's around you, no matter how high you are, no matter how high mom is, your rules are still your rules. And if you're doing a start line stay, you're doing it with 4 feet down. You don't crawl, you don't sit up, you don't shake, you don't change your position. If you change your position, no drama, you just start again. And if you do that way, I mean, I have a super high drive dog, like my once in a lifetime challenge mister. And my only way to handle him and actually cope with him was none of my business how crazy you are. If you don't keep your 2 on 2 off position on your seesaw, you go back in your crate, in your car, you stay there until you can figure it out. And I literally had to walk that dog out of the ring for 3 months every weekend until he figured it out. Now there is nothing that can push that dog off the seesaw. because I know that the only reinforcing thing for that dog is work. So I had to control the reinforcement, which is continuing in the ring. Because if you reward that dog 30 times with a cookie, he's still too high to keep it.
And that's the thing. I've got a dog that literally cannot take food in that headspace, and working through that has been the challenge of my lifetime. But I think the thing to remember for everybody as well is that these are things that you're going to face at different times, and they're going to be different for every person. But we've actually got fortnightly webinars lined up within the course. We've got discussion boards where you can submit your video. One of the best things I've discovered recently is literally just getting my iPad with a cover, and so I just fold it over the back so it forms its own little tripod, and I video from the grass upward, but at least the video is still on camera and I get to see it. Like, it doesn't have to be the most, you don't need a solo shot for any of this, or, you just, I know Jenny Marshall has like a fisheye lens she often puts on her iPad as well. And
that's a cool
getting
thing.
that video.
I used to video.
It's very cool.
When I trained on my own, I literally I didn't even have a tripod. I just had a phone, and I had to put 2 chairs together in the hole, and the phone would freeze because in winter we train in a cold barn basically. And then you do like a running context session, and you really want to look how it's going on the video, because running context is sometimes really hard to see, like when you're running it as well. And then you go back to the phone and it didn't type anything because it just died because it was frozen. So, I mean, there are lots of ways to get around it. And then I ended up putting like a little scarf thing around it, and then to plug it into a portable charger so it wouldn't die while I was filming, because they didn't have any students or any helpers back then. So I had a phone in a scarf with a portable charger to video. Although you probably wouldn't have that problem in Australia.
So I guess there's probably some people out here as well that got dogs like, I've literally gone back to training Tom only in the last probably 4 to 5 weeks, because I had it in my head that he just could not cope with the environment. But interestingly enough, just getting the feedback, because I've been chatting to Nat and Simone in a little group on a course that they've done, and 2 things that it's highlighted is that those foundation skills were never there for him. So at 2, he'll be going from day 1, even though he's got beautiful toy skills and things like that. Now we'll be going all the steps through with him. But your comment about not being able to understand their bodies when they're fully grown, if they don't have these foundations, I think that is probably my takeaway from tonight. I think we're seeing a lot of dogs that get out there with incredible speed, that can clear a jump, but managing themselves properly around a course. We want our dogs to be fit and healthy when they're 12 and 14,
and I mean, to be
running around
fit and healthy, especially if you're working with a high drive dog that just wants to do all of that. It's really hard to get them around obstacles without throwing themselves at it if they never did anything about it. And once they're full speed and they're full arousal, the more repetitions you do because the dog fails, the more high they get, because they get frustrated, you get frustrated, and then you just get in that cursed loop where you just keep repeating the same thing without the dog being able to cope, not because the dog is stupid or you're a bad dog trainer, but because the dog does not have previous layers of understanding there to be able to cope with it. So it's basically pointless to just keep doing that exercise you're struggling with, because the dog does not have tools to cope with it. The dog doesn't know where his back end is, or the dog doesn't know the value in the bar of keeping the bar up, or the dog doesn't have the value of listening to you, or the dog cannot do it from 12 meters, 6 meters, 5 meters, and because the dog just doesn't know that it's okay to work away from you. And there's no point in trying to fix that on an actual sequence, because that's not going to work.
Yeah. So this is the perfect time to be able to get back and work through this. And Minerva's agreeing with you wholeheartedly. So I think one of the things for me personally is I don't think the penny has ever dropped about the significance of foundations. And I guess that's why I'm so chuffed that we're actually able to bring this, because I've had people say this to me for a while, but now I think with a high drive dog, it's never been more significant. And Alyssa Abler, I think you might have met Alyssa. Did you meet each other, Alyssa? She's got a Smithfield called Rossi, beautiful looking dog, and she might have come up back in October.
Yeah, I think so.
She's wondering how you're coping together, but I think you've left the city for your mother's country house.
Yeah, I think
nice
about coming back because we have training halls not reopening. I mean, they've been open for a while, but you can only train there like 1 by 1 or up to 3 people. But because everybody's trying to move out to the country at the moment, it just starts to be a little bit unbearable, even in the country house, because there's so many people around. It's really hard to walk the dogs. And of course, now we have ticks that you can't really escape. Like, I would love to just walk in the forest every day, but because of the bloody ticks, I mean, I've been bringing ticks on my dogs back, and they just crawl around my floor. So I'm like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
I think I'll move back
we get
like
them,
a little. Yeah.
Wow.
And they're really dangerous here because they carry sort of like a bacterial disease to dogs as well.
Yeah, when I was in Finland last year at FCI, one of the women there was saying that they have these ticks that cause like brain seizures and things like that, like neurological problems.
Well, some of them cause Lyme disease, which is pretty nasty too, but at least you can cope with that with medicine. Ours have I think it's bacterial. It's babesiosis. It's basically microorganisms that as soon as they get in the bloodstream, they just start breeding, and the dog dies from liver and kidney failure because they just overload the bloodstream. It's a horrible thing.
It doesn't sound good, that's for sure. Hey, look, Marcy's just popped up that it's officially Q&A time for everybody.
Okay.
So fire away.
Sure.
Can you actually see the webinar? Hey, Marcy.
Hi, I came back.
Marcy's still here. That's good.
I am. No, I'm learning so much. Just sitting there like, ooh, I'm taking notes.
Cool. I like
know
when people take notes.
We've had some questions. I know that Jenny had some questions that she submitted before. Did you want to review those before or right now? Is that okay.
Do you have your email handy, Marcy?
I have it written right here. So the first one was multiple dog training. If you have different age dogs all in the same pack, and different issues and some tips that may help with managing the age span between the ages of the dogs.
Yeah.
Well, I have 4 dogs at the moment. My oldest one is 9 years old, nearly 9.5. My special boy, it will be 6 in 2 weeks. And I have the 2 puppies that you're going to see in the course that are not technically puppies anymore, but I still call them puppies because they're younger ones. So they're nearly, one of them is already 3. So Border Collie Groza, she's 3. And my younger one, the German Spitz, she will be 3 in 2 months. And I didn't plan them that way. I just accidentally bought a German Spitz coming to a competition. I just picked her up and drove away with her for a lot of money. So they kind of been a little bit of a challenge growing up together, because when puppies grow up close in age together, they struggle with engaging with people because they just engage with each other all the time. But we do have a few skills and a few strategies there with a multiple pack work. And you can start at any point with any of your dogs. So for example, with an older dog, if you think you've done, first, 20 exercises a day to come across, and one of them you find you didn't really prove that much like you did all the other ones, you can start with that dog at exercise number, 20, and just see there's a skill that you don't think you've grown that much. You don't have to start from the very first exercise, from the very beginning, from the first video with every dog. So I would just do like a separate, maybe like a spreadsheet for all of your dogs to figure out, how many skills you think you're missing, or what are the skills you want to be improving. And just with each dog, start from a place that you think needs addressing most. And because we're launching 2 videos a week, like that would be maybe 10 to 12 exercises per week. So, you can find in every week an exercise that needs proofing. And I would rather not do like 5 exercises with every dog. I would probably pick up things that you find more crucial, especially for older dogs. Obviously you don't need to teach tug drive with a dog that already tugs, or you don't need to, proof crate gains with a dog that has bomb-proof start lines and bomb-proof crate gains. But there are things that need to be addressed and proved. And I mean, there's always body awareness. That is not like you can learn it and leave it once and forever. Body awareness has to be addressed regularly, like at least weekly. So there's lots of things there. Or you find a skill that was, for example, jumping related because your dog doesn't have enough back-end awareness. And there's lots of body awareness exercises in the course that work with back-end and independent understanding of where the dog's feet are, for example. So I would just list every dog with the things that you struggle with most, and then just start addressing them from what you find is most missing or most lacking.
Okay.
And also throw some body awareness in each of them.
Okay, Annette had a follow-up question. She says, saw a video where you handle your dogs while sitting down with your back. I'm guessing you do this, I'm guessing by this use a lot of verbals. I'm struggling with deciding on how many verbals are actually needed. So maybe addressing how many.
Verbals is a lot. I mean, verbals are a lot of fun, but I do believe that if you have 3 verbals that are actually verbal and working, it's way better than you have 23 that are kind of there and you still cannot use them without body help. Because if a verbal does not work without you being there or without you really handling it and, sitting on top of that jump, it's not a verbal. So it's no point in trying to get 23 that are not proofed enough. So just figure, I would start with, I think directionals are a must. Small dog. So lefts and rights, backsides and threadles would be what I would start from. I would think those 3 are the most crucial. There are some of them are like, there are more verbals in the course, but I would think that proofing a backside to being independent and to work from 6 meters, 12 meters, 23 meters is way more useful than starting a threadle, a backside wrap, a backside slice, a backside whatever, and having 4 verbals that don't really work than, 1 proofed backside.
Okay.
No, I couldn't agree more.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I don't want to trample on anyone's brilliant wisdom here with my questions.
No, I'm just looking at these questions because Annette asked that question and she's got this very, very zippy border collie. So I can see why she's asking this. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you keep it simple and clear for both of you, it's just, it's easier and it's way more efficient than just trying, to start 30 things at once.
Yeah. Another one of Jenny's questions that she gave before is, what do you think the most effective way to manage, or what is the most effective way to manage a training session?
Keep it short, keep it fun, keep it intense. Start it with a great engaging tug session if your dog tugs, if not a couple of just simple cookie recall games, and plan it before you start it, because if you don't plan it, we like humans, we have that human brain thing, which is actually I think is one of the biggest issues with face and dog training, is if we don't plan things out and if we do not videotape or at least record keep, we tend, especially if we train on our own, which most of us do now in a lockdown, not in a group or not with a trainer, or at least not, with students or somebody to watch you, we tend to get in that little loop where we only train things that we kind of are slightly successful with and we're happy with, because we want to feel good about ourselves as a dog trainer, and we want to feel good about the dog that's being clever and coping. So we kind of just go back to things that are kind of okay, and we progress them because, they're fun and we're happy with them, and we start to avoid things that we struggle with, and that does not solve our struggles. So if you don't plan your things out, and it's a natural thing. I do that too. Everybody does that. And if you do not list the things that you need to be working on and you do not address them regularly, you just start playing with what is fun and okay for you, but that is not growing skills and that is not solving your struggles. So plan the session, keep a timer on, especially if you have, if you have a low drive dog, as well as if you have a high drive dog, because high drive dogs, if you overwork them, they get over aroused and they just lose their shit. If you have a low drive dog, if you keep it too long, you just you lose the dog, you lose their engagement, and you lower their motivation. So it has to be short. Keep a timer on, plan it, videotape it, have a ritual to start a training session. So a game of tug or a recall game, and make sure you time it and you do like a short session that is efficient, rather than just, you know, if the dog is not coping, there's nothing wrong with ending a session on a mistake. So rather stop it timely than trying to fix it doing 3,000 repetitions.
And share it on the discussion boards too, if you're joining the course with us.
And do a video.
Please do video. We would love to see that.
I mean,
and
sometimes
then
just looking at your own video is enough to figure out what was going on, because sometimes when we're in the process, it's hard to figure out, you know, what is that we're struggling with.
Okay. And then the last question from Jenny was behavior chains and how to avoid them, which I don't know anything about. So I'm excited to learn what a behavior chain is.
What was the first one? Sorry, it kind of went blurry. The sound went blurry.
Behavior chains and how to avoid them.
Well, dogs are pretty amazing at figuring out chains of events, and they're way better at predicting things and starting to anticipate them than we are. So first thing, any behavior chain that you get, well, obviously, if it's something, an unwanted behavior that you're trying to stop, or a behavior that's been making the dog crazy because it starts anticipating it, so you lose the control of the dog, or the dog starts losing it and leaves you for something. First thing, write it down, what it is that you think is going on. Second thing, video what is going on, and then review to actually figure out, is what you think is going on actually going on? Because sometimes we see only like the finished behavior. So for example, the dog screaming at very particular times, the dog screaming at the door, or the dog screaming when you take other dogs out of the crate, and then the dog gets out of the crate to work and it's lost its shit because it's over-aroused and it can't cope. Figure out 3 things that are happening before that behavior that you don't want, and how you handle it and how you reward it or how you try to stop it, and figure out what is causing that behavior chain, what is reinforcing the dog. So there has to be actions going on, like when the dog screams at the door, you yell at the dog to stop screaming and then you open the door. So what did you just do? You reinforce the dog screaming. Or you have a dog knocking a bar, and the dog, for example, always knocks the first bar. And what do you do in a competition? You keep running. What do you just do? You reinforce the dog for knocking the first bar. And no matter how many times you readdress and reinforce the dog not knocking the first bar in training, it's not the same thing. Because letting the dog run when it's aroused in a competition is 3,000 times more reinforcing than 30 cookies that you give in training when the dog is in a known environment and it knows it's not a competition. So record keep, videotape, figure out actions that are happening before, and write down how are you coping with what's going on.
And just remember too, everyone, that like one of the things that's been, you know, something that I've really loved in recent times is connecting up with people that are training dogs that are sharing similar feedback. Like I'm having little video exchanges with some friends on Facebook and things like that, but here's your opportunity to be videoing that and getting feedback and progressing towards an end goal. We're not going to be in lockdown forever. You're going to be out competing. And for me, I just keep thinking that, you know, now's my time. Well, you know, I live in Hyde, otherwise we're going to be videoing our runs and sending them in.
Lots of Zoom. Lots of Zoom.
But I actually do believe I'm a better dog trainer in the last 6 weeks because of this lockdown, because I have been able to use that time. And and absolutely, Kelly Neville. And I'm so excited that you're here, Kelly Neville. Kelly Neville lives in the Highlands and is a local dog trainer. And having a second set of on your training is vital. It really is.
So, I mean, and sometimes it's just depressing, you know, trying to cope with your struggles on your own. And when you're just, you know, I used to train on my own at nights before my first 2 world championships, and I didn't have a car and I didn't have any students. So I would drive there in a taxi at 2 a.m. in the morning, train by myself till 4 in a cold barn in winter, and my phone would freeze. So it would refuse to video me. And it was, you know, quite sad and depressing. And then you struggle with that freaking weave entry and you don't have a clue why. And then you get the same thing in a competition, and somebody just tells you, you're just stepping to the wrong side, or you're late with your verbal, and it solves the whole freaking thing. And you're like, why nobody told me that when I was screaming on that for 3 weeks in a row? And
I had the
sometimes it's
video
just,
to submitted it.
yeah.
Well, look, I just want to thank everybody for coming out on Mother's Day too, and for all of you with 2 and 4-footed children, happy Mother's Day, and I hope you've looked after each other and been supported in whatever way you need. And is there any other questions? I think we're probably getting pretty close to winding up.
We're right at the hour mark.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. And here we go. Dan Poole, Anastasia, but what if Striker doesn't have running contacts? Am I still banned?
Yes, you are. You need to have a running A-frame before you enter the course. I know that person. I ran his dog. It's amazing. I actually want to run with that dog.
Well, I think you're back next year too, won't you? All things considered, hopefully you're back. Well, if there's any other questions you need, look, don't feel like you can't ask anything. We do have the first 2 weeks open for free preview. We have already scheduled our first webinar for a fortnight away. So see everybody. And you will be able to ask questions throughout on the discussion boards.
And please read instructions to the videos.
And I have in the notes as the notes have gone up, just scroll down from the video, and I have put times in as the transitions of the skills go through. So read away, and hopefully we'll see you in there, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll message you offline, guys. See you, everyone.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.